A crazy kangaroo attacks a tourist. What happened is amazing. An American man visiting his daughter down under probably wasn't planning on adding fighting Australian wildlife to his itinerary or going viral for it. While attending a wildlife park in Perth with his family, the US resident can be seen shielding another visitor from the small kangaroo and gently saying that's enough. That is, before the animal decides to get on his hind legs and challenge him. "My dad was just trying to make sure that kangaroo stopped getting frisky with that lady," his daughter explained on TikTok. "My family doesn't live here like I do, so they came for a visit, and squaring up with a kangaroo was definitely not on their to-do list." In the video, which has already racked up more than 15 million views since being posted on Sunday, the roo can be seen grabbing at the dad's arm before kicking him in one quick and likely painful motion. The captivating standoff goes on for a solid 2 minutes, during which the man keeps backing off while holding an admonishing finger at the roo in parent-like fashion, while the marsupial keeps trying to fight him. A teenager, possibly the man's son, even tries to come to his rescue, only to also become a target of the animal's ire. In the end, it's a staff member who finally breaks up the fight, simply coming up to the roo and saying, "Naughty boy," at which point it admits defeat. The workers came over with food for him, the daughter added in the comments. The video garnered more than 14,000 comments, with some calling the incident scary while others thought it was the best thing ever. "The roo woke up and chose violence," one person joked. "At least no one was hurt. Your dad'll have an awesome story when he goes home. He fought Australian wildlife and won," another said. "That kangaroo has the same tenacity as all of us Aussies after a few beers," a third person quipped. "That's hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing. I'm sure your dad didn't think it was funny at the time, though," one TikTok user said. Some also pointed out that the kangaroo was play fighting, saying the man wouldn't have been so lucky if he was facing off with a big rat. This is another story about kangaroo attacks on tourists to stop feeding them junk food. A state MP has called for a coordinated government response to a spate of junk food-crazed kangaroo attacks on tourists in the New South Wales Central Coast. The attacks have occurred while tourists attempt to feed the native animals inappropriate food such as carrots and corn chips, and even McDonald's takeaway, tourist operators in the area say. There have been a number of reported incidents in which kangaroos have attacked visitors, in one case causing a very deep gash to a man's stomach, the local MP Greg Piper told NSW Parliament. In most cases, they have been kicking out, clawing faces, and grappling with people, causing lacerations or significant scratching. Recently, one attacked a man who required 17 stitches in his face. Advised on travel websites and social media that the grounds of Morisset Hospital near Lake Macquarie is a reliable place to see wild kangaroos for free, foreign and domestic tourists have been flocking to the location, which is about 4.5 kilometers from the nearest train station. Piper said last week he had visited the site, which is an operational psychiatric hospital, and had seen tourists offering the animals corn chips as well as apples, bananas, and processed foods. Kangaroos' usual diet is grasses. Michelle Shaw, the nutritionist at Sydney's Taronga Zoo, said feeding the animals could be very harmful. Kangaroos were grazers with digestive systems similar to cows, and feeding them even fruit or vegetables could cause stomach ulcers and inhibit the digestion of their proper diet, she said. Another problem is research has shown animals can become quite addicted to sugar, she said. They're going to seek it out regardless of whether it is going to be good for them or not, so they can become quite aggressive. A local tour bus operator, Shane Lewis, estimates there are up to 2,000 visitors a week, the majority on weekends taking selfies with a roo. His company transports about a quarter of them by his estimation. He said the animals had learned to associate the tourists with food. "You can rustle a chip packet and they know what's in there," he said. "That makes them aggressive. The dangers are you wouldn't go near a dog when it's eating its dinner, but people let their children go over. And I've seen kangaroos lash out thinking the kid's going to take their food when they're just going to pat them." He said he had been showing tourists photos of injuries caused by the kangaroos to discourage them from feeding the animals. "We're trying to scare them into not being naive and thinking they're cute and cuddly by showing them the photos, what can happen, and not to give them any food," he said. Lewis said the presence of tourists was generally positive as it tended to make the animals safer, but more education was needed. The site's population of kangaroos have been subject to vehicle attacks and 2 bow and arrow attacks, according to the Newcastle Herald. Piper said it was probably impossible to stop tourists coming to the area. "That Joey has left the pouch, so to speak," he said. But he called on the state's National Parks Department and Health Department, which owns the hospital site, to install appropriate signage in several languages to remind people that feeding the animals was illegal and unsafe. He also suggested tourism infrastructure such as toilets may be necessary. Kangaroo attacks on humans are quite rare, and deaths even more so. A man was killed by his pet roo in WA last year, which was the first fatal attack since 1936.